All right, it's 6 o'clock, so we will go ahead and get started. All right. Good evening and welcome to this Tuesday, February 21st, 2023 meeting of the Raymore Planning and Zoning Commission. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do a quick roll call here. Oh, I'll wait a few seconds. I'll come back to you. Commissioner Ingert.
Present.
Commissioner Faulkner.
Present.
Vice Chair Fizer.
Present.
Commissioner Urquia.
Present.
Chairman Wiggins is here, and Commissioner Bowie.
Present.
Let's see, and Mr. Manser is not here, nor is Secretary Peterman or Mayor Turnbow. We do have 6 tonight, so thank you. No personal appearances scheduled for this evening. Item 5 is our consent agenda. Approval of minutes from the February 7th, 2023 meeting. I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item, please.
Mr. Chair,
Sir.
I move that we approve minutes from our February 7th, 2023 meeting.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Faulkner, second by Commissioner Urquia to approve the minutes from the February 7th, 2023 meeting. Any discussion of the item? All in favor? All opposed and abstain since I was not here, and that will pass 5-0 to 1, excuse me. No unfinished business tonight, so that'll take us into item 7, new business. We have 4 items tonight, the first of which is case 23002, Parkside First Plat, Final Plat. At this time, I would invite the applicant to please come forward and state your case, or if the city will be handling that, please go ahead. And I know you know the drill, but please state your name and address for the record. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Tom. Steve Warger, Warger Associates, 6127 Northwest Pine Ridge Circle, Parkville, Missouri. We're here tonight for the first plat of Parkside and other abutting plats to that tonight. It's 28 lots. We revised that plat. It was a different layout in the beginning, and then they came back and wanted to do some adjustments, make some arrangements with the lots and make a lot larger amenity with the pool in that area. And that's why we're here tonight, to revise that. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the applicant before we get into staff report?
And Brad Carr's here as the developer representative.
Perfect. Thank you so very much, gentlemen. Mr. Gress, city staff, or staff report, please.
Thank you, sir. As mentioned, and for the purposes of the adjoining staff reports, all 3 of these Parkside items are interrelated as one. Most of the information will be covered in this initial staff report for the first plat.
Thank you.
As Mr. Warger mentioned, this is a request for a final plat for 28 residential lots within the Parkside subdivision, generally located south of 163rd Street and Churchill Lane. The existing zoning of the property is R1P, single-family residential plan district. Total tract is approximately 20.59 acres, 28 lots and 6 common area tracts. Has a density of approximately 1.36 units per acre. The growth management plan identifies this property as appropriate for low-density residential development. Looking at the history of the property, to the north with Creekmore, the PUD zoning for that property was established on January 26th of 2004. The R1P zoning for the subject property was approved on October 12th of 2020, and the preliminary plat and the memorandum of understanding that are currently in place were approved by the City Council on December 14th of 2020. Shortly after that, the initial applicant for the Parkside subdivision had changed, and so that agreement was actually reassigned to the current developer in its current form today. Some of the staff comments on this, as the applicant mentioned, there's 28 residential lots. Tract B, which is the largest of the common area tracts, is the future location of the community pool. That item is not required to be completed by the developer until the 3rd phase of the subdivision. That is something that would be required to be addressed through a site plan by the Planning Commission at a later date. They have not filed that application quite yet. In addition, a walking trail will be constructed as amenity within Tract A, which is to the east of the residential lots and kind of the creek and the wooded area, and that will have to be completed with the public improvements prior to the issuance of any occupancy permits for the subdivision. At this time, we have submitted Planning Commission proposed findings of fact, and that will conclude my staff report, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gress. Any members of the commission have any questions for city staff or based on that, the applicant? Don't see any over here. Anybody? I'm surprised. You usually have something. If not, I would entertain a motion to dispose of this item, please.
Chairman,
Sir, Mr. Urquilla.
I recommend that we accept the staff proposed findings of fact and forward case number 23002, Parkside First Plat, Final Plat, lots 1 through 28, and tracks A through F to the City Council with a recommendation for approval.
Yeah, that's right. Do I have a second, please?
I'll second.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Kia, second by Commissioner Ingert to, for the Planning and Zoning Commission to accept the staff proposed findings of fact and forward case 23002, Parkside First Plat, Final Plat, lots 1 through 28 and tracks A through F to the City Council with a recommendation of approval. Any discussion of the item? If not, all in favor? Seeing all hands, that will pass unanimously, 6-0. Thank you. That will then take us into item B, case 23003, Parkside Park First Plat, Final Plat. Once again, I would either invite the applicant or city staff, since it's relatively self-explanatory, however is best approached.
Just realizing we need to get a little more creative with our titling of these applications here.
Side Park.
The application before the commission right now would be for a final plat for the proposed dog park that was included in the preliminary plat for the Parkside subdivision. It's just shy or just over 13 acres. And the original memorandum of understanding for this project required that the applicant plat and dedicate this particular piece of property with the first application for residential lots within the subdivision. Based on the number of lots that were proposed in the original preliminary plat, approximately 13 acres of parkland were required, in addition to a fee in lieu requirement that will be collected for final plat applications moving forward. But this application does satisfy the parkland dedication requirement for the project moving forward. One thing I will note, and in addition to this application and the next one other item that's being presented to the City Council concurrently with these recommendations this evening would be a slight revision to the MOU in its current form. With the dedication of the dog park area being dedicated to the city, that triggers certain responsibilities of the city for the future construction of that road. Within the phasing plan of the preliminary plat, this area was originally slated for phase 13, I believe, or 2033. To provide the access to the dog park area as part of that, the developers agreed to advance that construction of that road segment pursuant to a cost share with the city. And so the MOU amendment simply adds provisions that would support that and will be presented separately to the City Council this coming Monday. It does not affect any of the zoning decisions that were made by the Commission or the layout. It strictly just allows the developer to advance that section of the project. That will conclude staff report on this item, and again, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gress. Any members of the commission have any questions for staff or the applicant? Good. All right, so if not, I would entertain a motion to dispose of this item, please.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir, Mr. Faulkner.
I move that we accept staff proposed findings of fact and forward case 23003, Parkside Park, First Plat, Final Plat, Lot 1, to City Council with a recommendation of approval.
I'll second it.
I've got a motion by Mr. Faulkner and a second by Vice Chair Pfizer to accept the staff proposed findings of fact and forward case 23003, Parkside Park, First Plat, Final Plat, Lot 1, to the City Council with a recommendation of approval. Any discussion of the item, please? If not, all in favor? That item will pass unanimously as well, 6-0. Thank you. That will then take us into our third item, which is case 21045, Sunset Lane, first plat, final plat. Would the city be presenting as well? Thank you, sir. Mr. Grass.
Thank you, sir. The last item as part of this first phase of Parkside is the platting of the right-of-way for the future extension of 163rd, where it will tie into Sunset Lane heading south through this subdivision. The extension of that project was actually a 2020 GEO-bond project that was approved by the voters. Following the approval of the development plan for this subdivision, we entered into a reimbursement agreement with the developer to construct that road as part of their development process. And so the application before you this evening is simply just the right-of-way for the portions of the neighborhood that do not have residential lots associated with them. That would conclude staff report on this item as well.
Thank you, Mr. Gress. Any members of the commission have any questions for Mr. Gress? Yes, sir. Mr. Faulkner, please.
I didn't want to disappoint you.
Thank you.
Just two different questions here. So I noticed this case was old, so it's been hanging fire for a while, and I can't really read it on the small pages, but on the large plat maps that were supplied, I notice it still references Joe Duffy. We've got to...
That was a good catch. The case number, yes, on the case number for the Sunset Lane plat, that was an application that we had started working on with the previous ownership group and then put it on hold. It was actually an application, like I said, towards the end of 2021. That is a correction we can have made prior to it making it to council and before it gets recorded. I appreciate you pointing that out.
Okay, so it will come up to the current designations on the other two plats.
Correct. The current developer, they were not involved in the platting of that right away. Initially, they assumed that under the reassignment, so
Right.
that was just an oversight
I
on
didn't
staff's
know
part.
if, because they had initiated it, I didn't know if that made it okay, but I'm a lot happier if it's corrected for signature.
Absolutely.
My other question, and I hope I don't make Mr. Zur cringe too much, but who's going to be responsible for the connection from the south end of this project to the north end of Sunset by Compass?
So the construction of Sunset Lane, and I'll defer to either Mr. Zur or Mr. Salisbury for further clarification. As part of the Parkside extension of this roadway, the developer will be assuming that responsibility. A segment of that road also extends partly through the city's park, as well as the Madison Creek subdivision. The city has obtained all the right-of-way for that segment of the road, which I do believe will be concurrent with the park construction. And I will let Mr. Zur conclude with the second half of that roadway.
So city is working with the prospect of putting forward, there's one final segment of roadway that still remains outstanding that we are having to acquire. Property owner on the west side of the road we have been attempting to negotiate acquisition of that property from him for the complete construction of Sunset. At this point, it has not been done, and the city has authorized us to proceed forward with the acquisition of it. I believe we are currently awaiting appraisal.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions by the members of the commission? If not, I would entertain a motion to dispose of this item, please.
Chair,
We're getting everybody in. Good. And Commissioner Bowie.
Planning and the Planning and Zoning Commission, I recommend that we accept the staff proposed finding of facts for case 21045 Sunset Lane, first plat, final plat to the City Council with a recommendation for approval, subject to the correction that was noted.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Bowie, second by Commissioner Faulkner to accept the staff proposed findings of fact and forward case number 21045, Sunset Lane, first plat, final plat to the City Council with a recommendation of approval, subject to the correction of the developer's name on the plat itself. Any discussion? All in favor? Seeing all, that is unanimous, 6-0 as well. Thank you. That'll take us to our last item of new business tonight, 23005, RAC Phase 2, Site Plan Amendment. At this time, I would ask the applicant to please come forward to present your case. If you'd like.
My name is Nathan Mustine. I'm Parks and Recreation Director for the city, and we're here tonight to present an updated plan for the expansion of the Raymore Activity Center, which was a 2020 GEO bond project. This was approved by voters. Tonight before you is, I believe Mr. Gress has provided some drawings for you to review and to make sure that we are on track with city policies. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I think it's pretty straightforward, and with Mr. Gress and myself, we should be able to help you out if you have any questions. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Mustine. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Mustine?
Mr. Chair.
Sir.
So just one on some of the map pages, I believe I noticed at would be the south end of the addition, there was an area designated as optional or alternative, I guess is the better word. And so I wonder if you could add anything as far as our plans. Are we planning to go with the building lining up with the current, or is that still in the air? Thank you.
Excellent question. Yes, on those plans, what we're proposing and what is being bid, which is currently out to bid. We'll have a pre-bid this week, but it is an expansion with the full box, is what I would call it, that matches up with the current alignment of the building. Depending on budget is what we would be able to deduct from that if we needed to, but the intent and the plan is to go to bid out the full box of expansion that would line up corner to corner.
So just probably to repeat what I heard, so they're out for bid and we'll see how it falls.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
It's a good way to put it.
And so, Chair,
Sir, go ahead.
the plan looks like it's to go wide before you go up? Perhaps, and upstairs at some point down the road. Not that that's a, pertinent necessarily to what we're looking at here, but it just looks like we're going wide before we go up.
Yes, we are headed west before we're headed to the sky. Yes.
Gotcha, okay.
Any additional questions or comments by the members of the commission? Thank you, Mr. Mustine.
good,
David,
thank
is there anything to add from staff's perspective?
So just for the record's sake, as Mr. Mustine mentioned, the requested action this evening is an amendment to the existing site plan that the commission approved back in 2016 for the Raymore Activity Center. To add on to the question that you asked Mr. Faulkner, when we were going through this, as Mr. Mustine indicated, there are some alternate options that we're bidding out. The intent for the drawings was to approve the largest possible footprint that could be done, and if we have to make those deviations, they would still be within that footprint that the commission would approve. Just to look at the history a little bit of the property, Recreation Park was established in the 1980s. The zoning designation for the Parks and Recreation zoning district were obtained in September of 2009 with the adoption of the UDC. For the existence of the activity center in general, a conditional use permit for a government or public use building was approved by the commission and the city council in October of 2016, and the Planning and Zoning Commission approved the original site plan for the activity center in November of 2016, and a building permit was issued shortly thereafter. Just a couple of comments as it relates to the expansion. Some of these were just notes that were approved with the initial staff report, but obviously with a larger building comes some enlarged requirements. So I wanted to touch on just some of the requirements for that briefly. In terms of parking, the original building was approved at, or with the expansion, I would say the total site plan requirement would be 29,098 square feet with both the existing building and the addition. Looking at parking, the original site plan was approved with the overall parking lot of Recreation Park in mind as overflow parking. 76 spaces were provided on the actual parking lot that's adjacent to the facility itself. And so looking at the overall just as a parks and recreation use, that is a requirement that is to be determined by the director of the department. And so myself, Mr. Eppert, and Mr. Mustine kind of looked at the averages of similar facilities. So if you look at a private indoor sports facility, it has a requirement of 1 per 800 square feet. A private indoor participant facility has a requirement of 1 per 200 square feet. And so if you look at the average of those two together, we felt that the existing requirement of 1 per 383 square feet in its current form fell right in the middle of what would be acceptable given the overflow parking within Recreation Park. Looking at the landscaping, since they're not proposing to add any additional parking spaces to the facility, there's no major additional landscaping that's required. The landscape plan did show some additional screening for any utility equipment that's going to be added onto the facility. And so staff will monitor that as part of the final design process as well to decide where those end up on site and make sure that those are screened. In terms of pedestrian access, the sidewalk will be extended along the south end of the building where it connects to the trail system that's adjacent to the roundabout. So they're making that accommodation to serve the expansion. That will conclude my staff report. We did submit staff for proposed findings of fact, and I'm happy to answer any questions the commission might have.
Thank you, Mr. Gress. Any members have any questions for staff?
Quick question about parking, because I was looking at parking earlier. Right now, you're saying that if you get a bunch of people in there, people are going to park at the current parking that's out there for the recreation park, if it happens to overflow from the 70 some odd parking spaces that you have right now, right? So you're looking for people to possibly park near the softball fields or whatever and walk over. So not that it's, applicable at this point. At some point, you got to plan for some other parking out there, I'm sure. So just something to think about. I know you guys probably went back and forth with this quite a bit, but parking was a little bit of a concern for me since we're adding so much space, and you're talking about having some bleachers in there where people are going to sit down and watch some volleyball, basketball. So just something to point out that, parking was an issue for me. So I'm sure you guys are thinking about that down the road.
Appreciate that. You're correct. We did go back and forth on considerably on that requirement. And I'll let Mr. Mustine clarify. I think there is room on the site for a future addition to that parking lot. They've also got the skate park under construction to the north, which I believe adds some additional, not satellite parking, but adjacent to the site. But I'll let Mr. Mustine clarify that as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. What we call the Park House property, which is right in front of the park maintenance facility, which is right where the skate park is being built. There is already a parking lot there with over 20 spaces in that area. The plan for additional parking in the future through the park CIP program is to not only expand that parking lot, but connect it with the pedestrian trail access to the gymnasium. So that parking lot would serve not only the skate park, but also as additional overflow parking for the rack. That should more than satisfy the requirements for the expansion, plus we still have the overflow at Recreation Park in that. So those are things that, although unfunded in the CIP, they are targeted and listed as a priority within the CIP.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That was going to be my question, so thank you very much for that. And just, I will note, Mr. Manser is now present for this meeting. Mr. Akia.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions on the conditions. I noticed they say that there are certain things that if, like on, I guess, points 6, 7, and 8, where it mentions that reports and things need to be submitted to the city for review. I know Park and Rec isn't technically the city, but so are we, in a sense, is that the check and balance? Is that because it's Park and Rec, the city then can clarify those things and
The city
approve
is the
them?
applicant. The
Okay.
city is the applicant.
So the city is the applicant. So what, then, are they approving their own reports?
And in terms of that, it would actually be the contractor that we end up hiring for the project that would have to hire that or submit those reports. But good question.
Just wanted to clarify. 'Cause,
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. That's all I had.
Any additional questions for city? If not, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Chairman,
Sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the staff proposed findings of fact and approve case number 23005, the Raymore Activity Center site plan amendment, subject to the listed 8 conditions in the report.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Kia, second by Commissioner Faulkner to accept the staff proposed findings of fact and approve case 23005, Raymore Activity Center site plan amendment, subject to the 8 conditions outlined in the report. Any discussion of this item?
Yes,
Sir.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
If
Mr.
you could
Manser.
Quickly catch me up on anything that, I'm prepared to vote.
Sure.
I was just wondering if there was anything that could possibly change my vote.
No,
was
sir.
discussed, sorry.
I think it was pretty straightforward based on the information that was proposed to us in our meeting packet, as well as the drawings. There was one question by Commissioner Faulkner regarding, on the second page, there was a section that was listed as an alternative space, but Mr. Mustine clarified that that is out to bid. And then we discussed parking, and I pretty much should hopefully bring you up to speed.
I feel prepared to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the inquiry. Any final discussion of the matter? All right, all in favor? Seeing all raised, that'll pass unanimously, 7-0. Thank you. That concludes new business for this evening, so this will take us into item 8, City Council Report. Mr. Zur.
Thank you, Chairman Wiggins. Since your last Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, there's been one City Council meeting on February 13th. Sorry, there have been 2 City Council meetings. I will report with regard to each one of them. Monday, February 13th, 2023 was a legislative meeting of the City Council. During the course of that discussion, the Council considered and approved unanimously the unfinished business second reading for the Edgewater at Creekmore 8th and final plat. This was previously approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission by unanimous vote on January 17th, 2023. It includes 11 residential lots and 2 common area tracts, basically an extension of the Cooper Land Development, 8th phase of the Edgewater at Creekmore subdivision. The City Council also approved at its second reading the Edgewater at Creekmore 9th and final plat. This would be, again, the 11 residential lots and 2 common area tracts incorporated as part of the Creekmore subdivision. During the course of the City Council meeting on the same evening of February 13th, the City Council heard and approved the issuance of Chapter 100 bonds for Warehousing and Distribution Center and Building 3 on the Raymore Industrial Center for Newly, a subdivision of Urban Outfitters. Very exciting to see Newly coming in to add both jobs as well as the further development of the Raymore South Commerce Center. The only other legislative hearing and, legislative activity that has occurred with the City Council was on the 16th, and that was the public hearing on the threatened landfill north of Raymore within the jurisdictional boundaries of Kansas City. There was an ordinance approved that evening in opposition to the landfill, which will be delivered to the Missouri Department of Natural Resources. It was approved unanimously by the City Council under an emergency vote, so both readings occurring on the same night. I'm happy to answer any questions you all might have regarding either of those 2 meetings, but otherwise that would conclude my City Council report.
Thank you, Mr. Sir. Any questions from the Commission? Thank you. That would take us to staff report. Mr. Gress.
Thank you, sir. I only have one item for tonight. I wanted to give the commission a heads up. The election is right around the corner. The Chamber of Commerce has scheduled the candidate forum for both city council members and school board candidates. It'll be held here in the council chambers on Wednesday, March 22nd. I believe that'll start at 6 p.m. And so we're excited to see that go forward and hear from the candidates that evening. That will conclude my comments.
Thank you, sir. Do we have anything from Public Works? Thank you. This will take us to item 10, public comment. If any member of the public would like to come forward to speak on any item, please feel free. Seeing none, we will go to commission member comments. I'm going to start over here with Mr. Kia tonight, sir.
I just want to thank staff for all that you do, having everything ready to go tonight, walking us through what we needed to know, and making this what seemed to be initially going to be a little bit of a longer meeting, a rather quick one. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All the way to my right, Commissioner Bowie.
No particular comment. Thank you, guys. Appreciate all of your hard work, and forge ahead.
Commissioner Ingert.
Thank you, staff. I appreciate our hard work and effort. I was at the public hearing Thursday, and it was a real pleasure to see 550-plus people there, including the city council, as well as members from the planning and zoning there as well. So, thank you.
Commissioner Manser, sir.
I was at the hearing as well, so thank you for putting that on. Thought it went really well. Great turnout. Parking was crazy, but I just stayed at the bank. Thank you to staff. Sorry for my tardiness. I did my meeting ran a little late, so I let you know as soon as I could. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Vice Chair Fizer.
I'd also like to thank staff. I'm glad the meeting was well attended last week. I couldn't make it because I had an unnamed illness pop up suddenly, which I've recovered from, so everyone's safe. But just thanks to staff.
Mr. Faulkner, Commissioner Faulkner.
Well, I had a family member at the meeting. I was not able to attend personally, but I was represented and got a good feedback on the meeting, well conducted as best I could tell. Do have a question, Mr. Gress, just curious, maybe I'm jumping the gun, but haven't seen the monthly report.
So that should have been included on our February 7th meeting, but I can more than happily send that to you.
No. If it was in last meeting, I'm jumping the gun. I'm looking for the report at the end of February.
Oh, for February, no, that has not been completed yet. I'm still waiting on some inspection activity and building permit activities
That's
from
fine.
Mr. Warner.
So I'll see it next meeting. And
Either that, or I can always email it to the commission members as well ahead of time. It's just sometimes when the Monday is right up against the first of the month, it
Right.
makes it a little more challenging.
Personally, and I'll go with what the other commissioners say, I would appreciate the email, because when I have tried recently to find it on Raymore.com, it wasn't working for me.
As in on our development services page?
I can't tell you where. It used to be there, and maybe the old ones were, but the newer ones were not. And by the way, it might have just been me.
I'll take a look into that and let you know.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
And email is good for me, so. I'm
Yeah.
good.
And thank you to staff. And to Mr. Mustine.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for staff, as always, for everything that you do. Thank you for Vice Chair Pfizer for filling in for me 2 weeks ago while I was out of town. Fantastic meeting last week at Centerview. Amazing turnout. Lots of news stations, lots of state politicians, commission, county commissioners. Mark Alford was there, so we've got a lot of support. Excellent turnout, 14 unanimous ayes this morning at the lower level House meeting. So now it'll go, yes, sir, Mr. Zer, would you like to clarify?
Local government committee.
The local. I was trying to remember the name of that. I didn't mean lower as in negative. Appreciate that. So now it'll hopefully go to the full House and go from there. So as city manager told me just as I was, Fearborn, I don't know why, I was about to say Faulkner, but yeah, you're stuck on my tongue, I guess. As Mr. Fearborn was saying as I was walking in, he said step 1 of 15 is down. So the activities will continue to go on. I would encourage everybody to continue to reach out to members of the House as well as the Senate, county commissioners in Jackson County, city council members, whatever the case may be. That would also then take me to just a quick reminder, as I know there are lots of various petitions and things going around. There are some things such as change.org, which is fantastic for information purposes, but is not something that's necessarily a deliverable to other bodies, whereas actual petitions like we had at the meeting last week are. I know there are a lot of neighborhoods who are going through and going door to door. Quick reminder, please, if you've already signed one, do not sign it again, once and only once. Please tell your family and your friends, etc. Mr. Zer had another finger moment, so I would defer
Just
to him for a moment.
Additional follow-up, we are anticipating assignment of the proposed bill to a Rules Committee. We're not sure which one of the Rules Committees it will be assigned to. As soon as we do have that information will be made public about the members of that Rules Committee so that individuals within the community can contact them directly as well.
Thank you, Mr. Zer. Kind of continuing that same line, has there been any update as to when additional signs may be available? I know that they were all gone by the end of last week at the meeting, and I know that more have been on order. I just didn't know. I realize it's not anything necessarily that you guys would know the printing schedule, but
I'm fairly certain they have been ordered, but I do not know the delivery date of when those will be here.
fair enough. I told some people I would ask. And lastly, do we are planning a meeting on the 7th of March, the first?
Yes, I believe right now we are planning on that meeting. Mr. Eppert was out this morning for me to catch up with him, but we will circle back and update the commission as needed.
Perfect. I just want to make sure everybody was aware of that. With that, again, thank you so much. And if there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Kia, second by Commissioner Manser to adjourn the meeting. Any discussion? If not, all in favor? We are adjourned 7-0. Thank you very much.